The glass shattered before the screaming started. Lucas Reed's phone hit the mahogany table so hard it splintered the screen, but he didn't notice. His eyes were locked on the stock ticker bleeding across the wall-mounted screen. 40%. Gone. In 6 hours. Mr. Reed, the FBI is requesting immediate access to... Get them on the line. Now. His voice came out flat, mechanical, the kind of calm that preceded total collapse. In the hallway outside the emergency boardroom, Naomi Martinez pushed her cleaning cart past lawyers who didn't see her. They never did. She was 52, invisible in her gray uniform, just another body that kept the billion-dollar machine running after everyone important went home. Except tonight, no one was going home. She paused at the open door, her hand on a trash bin. Inside, Lucas Reed looked like a man watching his empire burn in real time. The screens told the story. Reed Systems, the cybersecurity firm that protected half of corporate America's data, had been breached. Not by amateurs, by ghosts who knew every backdoor, every vulnerability, every secret the company had spent 15 years burying. "This is surgical," a woman in an FBI windbreaker was saying. "Whoever did this knows your architecture better than your own engineers." Lucas turned to his CTO, a man whose face had gone the color of old paper. "That's impossible. Our systems are compromised completely." The FBI agent didn't blink. "We're looking at an inside job, Mr. Reed, or someone who used to be inside." Naomi's fingers tightened on the trash bin. She knew that exploit. She'd seen it before, in code she'd written a lifetime ago, in a career that ended the night she trusted the wrong people. She moved on, her cartwheels squeaking softly. No one called her back. By 3 a.m, the building felt like a mausoleum. Naomi worked her way through the executive floor, emptying bins full of crumpled printouts and cold coffee cups. The crisis room had finally emptied an hour ago, Lucas and his team retreating to catch whatever sleep they could before the market opened and the real bloodbath began. But Naomi didn't go home. She took the service elevator down to sub-level 2, where the legacy servers hummed in climate-controlled silence. Her badge still worked here. It worked everywhere. Cleaning staff had access to everything and suspicion of nothing. The screen she'd glimpsed earlier had showed a fragment of code, just 3 lines visible before someone closed the window. But 3 lines were enough. She'd recognized the signature, the particular way the exploit threaded through authentication protocols. She'd designed similar code once for penetration testing, back when she'd been Naomi Martinez, lead cybersecurity architect at Vertex Financial, back before everything fell apart. Now, standing in the server room with only the blue glow of monitors for company, she pulled up the system logs. She shouldn't be doing this. If anyone caught her, they'd assume the worst. A cleaning lady accessing company servers during a catastrophic breach? She'd be in federal custody before dawn. But she looked anyway. The code was elegant, vicious, and disturbingly familiar. Not because she'd written it, but because she'd trained someone who wrote exactly like this. Years ago. Before he'd helped frame her for fraud, before he'd testified that she'd stolen trade secrets, before he'd walked away with her career in his pocket and a seat on Reed Systems' board of directors. Naomi's hands moved across the keyboard, muscle memory taking over. She isolated the primary exploit, traced its execution path, found the vulnerability it was leveraging. A legacy authentication module, outdated but never removed because it would mean rebuilding core systems. She'd seen this mistake before, had warned about it before. It took her 40 minutes to write the patch, test it, and deploy it to the affected servers. She didn't touch anything else, didn't leave obvious traces. Just closed the hole the attackers were using for their deepest access. Then she cleared her tracks, shut down the terminal, and went back to emptying trash bins. When Lucas walked into the crisis room at 7 the next morning, running on 2 hours of sleep and bad coffee, his CTO was staring at a screen with an expression somewhere between confusion and religious ecstasy. The bleeding stopped. Lucas moved behind him, scanning the data. "What do you mean stopped?" "I mean someone patched the primary vulnerability. 3 hours ago. Servers stabilized. We've still got attackers probing the perimeter, but they can't get deep anymore." He turned, his face pale. "I didn't do this. None of my team did this." "Then who?" "Security logged a terminal access at 0300 sub-level 2. The CTO pulled up the access record. Janitorial badge, someone named Martinez. The silence in the room felt like a held breath. Lucas's jaw tightened. "Find her, now." They found Naomi on the 20th floor, cleaning the executive washroom. She saw them coming, 3 security guards and Lucas Reed himself, and didn't run. Running never helped. Lucas stopped in the doorway, studying her. She was small, weathered, with gray threading through dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. She met his eyes without flinching. "You accessed our servers last night." "Yes." "That's a federal crime during an active investigation." "Probably." She set down her cleaning supplies, crossed her arms. "Your problem isn't hackers, Mr. Reed, it's executives." His expression shifted, surprise cracking through the anger. "Explain." "Not here, and not with an audience." He considered her for a long moment, then waved the security guards back. When they hesitated, his voice went cold. "I said back off." They retreated. Lucas stepped into the washroom, letting the door close. The intimacy of the space, all marble and expensive fixtures, made the moment surreal. "Talk." Naomi took a breath. This was the part where she usually got arrested. "My name is Naomi Martinez. 12 years ago, I was lead architect for Vertex Financial's Cybersecurity division. I designed their core authentication systems. I also discovered that the CFO and COO were using those systems to hide about $40 million in embezzled funds." Lucas's eyes narrowed. "I remember that case. The architect was arrested. Industrial espionage." "I was framed." Her voice stayed level, factual. "The CFO's brother-in-law was the prosecutor. Very convenient. I spent 18 months fighting charges before they quietly dropped them. By then, my reputation was destroyed. NDAs meant I couldn't defend myself. I was blacklisted, broke, and radioactive." She paused. "One of the men who framed me now sits on your board. Richard Chen, your COO." The name landed like a bomb. "That's impossible. Richard's been with me for 8 years. He's using an exploit signature I taught him in 2011. I recognized it last night. The attack isn't random, Mr. Reed. It's targeted. And it's coming from someone who knows your systems intimately because they've had years to build backdoors into them." Lucas stared at her. She could see him processing, weighing, calculating odds. Finally, "You're telling me my COO is destroying my company?" "I'm telling you someone trained by me is destroying your company, and Richard Chen is the only person I trained who's in your building." "Why would he?" "Money, revenge, a better offer from a competitor. Does it matter?" Naomi's voice softened slightly. "You asked me to explain. I'm explaining. What you do with that information is your call." He was quiet for a long moment, then, "Show me." They worked in a locked conference room, just the two of them. Lucas had told his assistant he needed privacy to review legal documents. Half true. He was reviewing documents, just not the legal kind. Naomi walked him through the code, pointing out the signatures, the techniques, the particular way the exploit leveraged system architecture most people didn't even know existed anymore. Lucas was smart enough to follow, his technical background solid, even if rusty. "This is circumstantial," he said finally. "No prosecutor would touch it." "I know. That's why we need to catch him in the act." "We?" Naomi met his eyes. "You need someone who thinks like him. I do. And I have nothing left to lose." The words hung between them. Lucas studied her, really looked at her for the first time. He saw the exhaustion, the wariness, but also something harder. Determination. Survival. "If I'm wrong about you," he said slowly, "I'll lose everything. If you're right about me, you might save it." He made the decision. "Okay, but this stays between us. If the board finds out I'm working with someone who accessed our servers during a federal investigation, I'm invisible, remember? That's my superpower." Despite everything, he almost smiled. Over the next 3 nights, they built a trap. Naomi would arrive after her cleaning shift officially ended, slipping into the secure room Lucas had set up on a floor nominally under construction. They'd work until dawn, surviving on coffee and adrenaline, tracking the attackers' movements, mapping their access patterns. On the second night, Lucas brought pizza. Naomi looked at the box like it might explode. "You have to eat," he said. "I usually do. Just not with billionaires. I'm technically only worth about 600 million right now, down from 1 billion last week." He opened the box, the smell of pepperoni filling the small room. "So really, you're slumming it." She took a slice. They ate in silence for a moment, the only sound the hum of servers and the soft click of keyboards. "Why'd you stay?" Lucas asked. In the building. You could have walked away. Naomi considered the question. Because I've spent 12 years being invisible, being silent, letting the people who destroyed me win. She set down her pizza. I saw a chance to stop someone like them. I took it. That's not the whole answer. She looked at him. Really looked. Saw past the expensive suit and the exhaustion to something else. Loneliness, maybe. The isolation of being the person everyone blamed. No, she admitted. It's not. He didn't push, just nodded and went back to his keyboard. On the third night, Naomi found the pattern. The attacker was accessing systems during board meetings, using the distraction to mask their digital movements. Subtle, professional. Next board meeting is tomorrow, Lucas said. Emergency session about the crisis response. Perfect. Naomi's fingers flew across the keys. We'll set up a honeypot. Make it look like critical financial data, weekly protected. When he takes the bait, we'll have him. And if it's not Richard? Then I go to prison for hacking your company, and you go down for helping me. She looked up. Still in? He should have said no, should have called security, turned her over to the FBI, protected himself. Instead, he said, yeah, I'm in. The board meeting started at 2. By 2:15, Lucas was watching the trap from his phone hidden under the table while his general counsel droned through crisis protocols. Naomi was in the secure room monitoring traffic. At 2:30, someone took the bait. Naomi's screen lit up. The access came from inside the building, routed through multiple proxies, but ultimately traceable. She watched the attacker probe the honeypot, testing its defenses, then commit. Start downloading. She pulled up the source terminal, Richard Chen's office. She texted Lucas a single word, confirmed. In the boardroom, Lucas stood abruptly. I need to address something. Richard, could you step out with me for a moment? Richard looked up surprised. Now? Lucas, we're in the middle of... It's urgent. The room went quiet. Richard stood slowly, confusion crossing his features, and followed Lucas out. The other board members exchanged glances. In their hallway, Lucas turned. Where were you 3 nights ago? Between 2 and 4 a.m.? What? Lucas, what is this? Answer the question. Richard's face shifted, the confusion hardening into something else. Something calculating. I don't have to answer anything. What's going on? Lucas held up his phone, showing the live feed from Naomi's monitoring station. The data transfer from Richard's terminal, undeniable and documented. You're destroying us, Lucas said quietly. Why? For a moment, Richard didn't respond. Then he smiled, and it was the coldest thing Lucas had ever seen. Because you never valued what you had. This company should have been worth $5 billion by now, but you were too cautious, too ethical, too goddamn soft. Richard's voice dropped. I was offered 7 figures to open the doors, another 3 to make sure the damage looked catastrophic. After you went under, I'd have been positioned perfectly for the acquisition team. Win-win. You were my friend. You were my boss. There's a difference. Lucas felt something crack inside his chest, but his voice stayed steady. Security's already called the FBI. You're done, Richard. Richard's smile didn't falter. Am I? Where's your proof? Some mysterious late-night monitoring? By whom? You going to explain how you caught me? He leaned closer. Because if you were working with someone who had unauthorized access to our systems, that makes you complicit. You'll go down with me. He was right. Lucas felt the trap close around both of them. Then Naomi's voice came from behind them, calm and clear. Not if the person monitoring was doing so under legal authority. They both turned. Naomi stood in the hallway, but she wasn't alone. 2 FBI agents flanked her, and a third was on his phone recording. Naomi Martinez, she said, looking at Richard. You remember me. You helped destroy my career at Vertex, testified I was unstable, stealing code. She held up a badge, federal and official. Turns out, the FBI's been investigating you for 18 months. Corporate espionage, multiple companies. They just needed someone who could think like you to help them build the case. She glanced at Lucas. Mr. Reed's cooperation has been invaluable. Richard's face went white. You? I was recruited 6 months ago, Naomi continued. The cleaning job was cover, deep cover. She looked back at Lucas. Though the unauthorized server access was a little off script, My handler wasn't thrilled about that. Lucas stared at her, understanding blooming slowly. The whole thing had been a setup. The FBI had been building a case. She'd been their plant. You lied to me, he said. I bent the truth. Naomi's expression softened slightly. The part about my past was real. The part about being invisible was real. The part about having nothing to lose. She paused. That was real too. Until about 3 days ago. The FBI agents moved in, reading Richard his rights. He didn't resist, just looked at Naomi with something like grudging respect. You always were the smartest one in the room, he said. I know. They took him away. Lucas and Naomi stood in the empty hallway, the sound of Richard's protests fading down the corridor. Lucas felt like he'd been hit by a truck. So, FBI consultant. Cybersecurity specialist. I've been helping them track corporate espionage cases, quietly. She crossed her arms. When your company came up on their radar, they needed someone inside. Someone Richard wouldn't notice. The invisible cleaning lady. Exactly. The part about working together, the late nights. Was any of that real? Naomi was quiet for a moment, then, the work was real. The risk was real. The fear that I'd lose everything if I trusted the wrong person again? She met his eyes. That was very real. But you trusted me anyway. You stopped the security guards. You listened. You saw me when no one else did. Her voice dropped. Yeah, I trusted you. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. What happens now? Lucas asked. Now the FBI finishes their case. Your company stabilizes. You rebuild. She started to turn away. And I go back to being invisible. Wait. Lucas caught her arm gently. She stopped. What if I don't want you to be invisible anymore? She looked at him, searching his face. What are you saying? I'm saying I need a new chief security officer, someone who thinks like the enemy, someone who understands what it's like to lose everything and fight back anyway. He took a breath. I'm saying I don't want this to be the last time we work together. Lucas, I'm a 52-year-old former cleaning lady with a destroyed reputation. You're a 52-year-old genius who just saved my company and took down a traitor. His voice was firm. And I'm a 40-year-old billionaire who just realized the smartest person in his building was emptying his trash. Despite herself, Naomi smiled. When you put it that way. So, will you consider it? She studied him, seeing past the offer to what lay beneath. The loneliness, the need for someone who understood, the desire for partnership, real partnership, not the transactional relationships that filled his world. On one condition, she said, name it. We do this as equals. I'm not your employee. I'm your partner, 50-50 on the security division. Lucas didn't hesitate. Deal? They shook hands, the gesture formal but charged with something deeper, something neither was quite ready to name yet. 3 months later, Reed Systems held a press conference. Lucas stood at the podium looking stronger than he had in years. Behind him, the company logo gleamed, restored and polished. Today, I'm announcing a major restructuring of Reed Systems' security division, he said. We're launching Reed Martinez Security Solutions, a new partnership dedicated to helping companies identify and eliminate internal threats. He gestured to his side. My partner, Naomi Martinez, brings 30 years of experience and expertise to this venture. Naomi stepped forward, professional in a tailored suit that replaced the gray uniform. The cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. She answered them calmly, precisely, with the confidence of someone who'd earned her place through fire. After the press conference in the quiet of Lucas's office, he poured them both a drink. To new partnerships, he said. To being visible, Naomi countered. They clinked glasses. You know, Lucas said after a moment, Richard was wrong about one thing. What's that? He said I was too soft, too ethical. Lucas set down his glass. But trusting you, believing you when no one else would, that wasn't soft. That was the smartest risk I've ever taken. Naomi smiled, real and warm. Then maybe being smart and being ethical aren't opposites. Maybe not. They stood at the window looking out over the city lights. Two people who'd been invisible in different ways, now standing together in full view. What you said that first night, Lucas said quietly. About your problem being executives, not hackers. You were right. I usually am. Is that going to be our company slogan? It should be. He laughed and she joined him, and for the first time in years, neither of them felt alone. 6 months after that, Naomi walked into the new, secure facility Reed Martinez had built. Her name was on the door, etched in steel. Inside, a team of analysts worked as state-of-the-art terminals, hunting corporate threats with the same precision Naomi had once used to clean offices. Lucas met her at the entrance, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," he said. "You're getting soft." "I prefer considerate." She took the coffee, their fingers brushing for just a moment. That contact, brief and electric, said more than words. "Ready for the briefing?" he asked. "Always." They walked into the facility together, equals and partners, building something real from the ashes of what they both lost. Later, much later, when someone asked Naomi how she'd gone from cleaning lady to partner in a multi-million-dollar security firm, she'd think about that first night. The shattered phone, the bleeding stock ticker, the moment she'd decided to stop being invisible. "I saw someone who needed help," she'd say, "and I had the skills to provide it." But that wasn't the whole truth. The whole truth was simpler and more complicated. She'd seen someone as alone as she was, and chosen to trust one more time. And this time, finally, it had been enough. If this story kept you watching until the very end, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another incredible tale of courage, redemption, and unexpected heroes. Drop a comment telling us what moment hit you hardest, and smash that like button if you believe that sometimes the most powerful people are the ones nobody sees coming. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more stories that matter. Until next time, remember, you never know who's watching, who's listening, or who might just save everything when it matters most.